Oh,
people,
we got more people
Just
coming
the
in.
people coming in, give it a few
people
minutes.
have slow processors. They might still be able to see it on 9 mode.
Yeah, yeah, native mode's
Slow
off.
feed.
At least it's not a torrential downpour right now. That's good.
Oh, about time. Jeez.
Everybody comes in now, we're going to call them out on the air.
So, are we ready?
Is there anybody behind you there, John, that was coming too? Or?
I didn't see anybody behind me.
Is everybody comfortable? You have your pillows and blankets?
Got my blanket.
Okay, well, welcome to this. We're going to be talking about the NitrOS9 EOU update that just happened. So at the beginning of April, oh, no, not yet.
Yeah, start over.
So at the beginning of April, the latest update, version 1.01 of the NitrOS9 EOU was released. For those of you that don't know, I'm Ken Waters. I am the, I don't know, what, testing monkey?
Sure, that sounds good.
Okay, and that guy back there is Curtis, the guy that
Hi.
brains behind the operation of the NitrOS9 EOU. So we're just going to go through a few of the things that are new on the system, and then we'll have some Q&A, and I'll just shut up for that, and Curtis can answer all your questions. But so I'm going to be talking more about things that are interesting that have been added that for kind of the general user, as we're trying to get more people interested in NitrOS9 EOU that for the actual usability of it and to do things like play games and whatnot. So the first thing I'm just going to show you is something that Curtis added here. It's an animated VEF picture. So it's a waterfall, as you can tell, and just kind of a nice little picture.
So this picture was taken from an Atari ST picture, and I think if I remember, Chet Simpson's the one who actually converted it originally, but Kevin Darling ported to OS9. And one of the features of the VF file format is that it supports animated graphics using palette registers, and that's kind of what you're doing here. So you can do this kind of stuff in your own programs too.
Now, the other thing, a new feature on here is that a shortcut for going back in your GUI here, going back
Folders.
Folders. Now the hitting the period key will move you back, as well as hitting the back
Yeah,
button.
you can also do the close box in the current
the close-
directory down here. But now it's much faster for me. And it's because of keyboard buffering, if you want to go back 4 or 5 directories, rather than a click, wait, now you can just tap the period key 5 times to go back up 5, and it'll just do it all on its own buffered.
Yeah.
Quick question, is it back or up?
Up one, well, depending on your terminology, I guess, yeah. But yeah, it goes up one directory.
Yep.
What
Okay.
I mean is you didn't have to previously have navigated to that directory already. It's not like it's stored.
No, it just goes back up the tree.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's like,
Yeah.
Now, what was I going to talk about next? I'm really prepared for this. So.
Neither of us are prepared. A lot of stuff happening at home.
So I guess I was also going to show a couple of the games that have been added in here. So if you want to go to the games file.
Which one do you want to do first?
How about Dungeon Depths?
I didn't bring the joystick, but we'll show the preview. Of it.
Yeah. So now, one thing about it, if you okay, you jumped ahead of me.
Oh, sorry.
A lot of help files have been added to the system here. So if you single click onto a game, like for instance,
Lander. I just happen to be there.
Lander. Now, normally you have to double click it to load it. If you single click it and then hit the question mark, it brings up a help file with convenient things like how to play the game and how to get out of the game, because it's not always consistent how to close down a game.
I should mention this is not just for games too. Any of the clickable GUI apps, even the utilities and stuff. I think I've got most of them in there. There's a few I missed. I found out afterwards, but basically you should have some way to do it. This is kind of based on the Amiga's, what is it called, WHD load or DH load or something?
Do I look like an Amiga guy?
But basically the habit is if you're launching a game and you want to figure out how do I get out of it, how do I do the controls, they basically give you a little picture screen like this that kind of gives you very brief directions ahead of time. Now the advantage of the OS9 system, because we are truly multitasking, the Amiga usually when it launches a game, it kind of kills Workbench and launches the game and then kills the game and comes back to Workbench. Is if you forget to do this and you've launched a game, oh, how do I exit this cleanly? You can actually go back to G Shell and single click it and do the question mark while the game's still running in another window. And then you can go back and play the game once you know what the controls are.
So it also, using the question mark on the keyboard is a shortcut, but you could also click the question mark on the screen,
Yeah.
which will give you the help screen as well.
I should have turned click off because it keeps beeping on me. Oh, well.
Ah, well. Now, we're going
Do that
to
in the code then for the game, or is there just a separate?
No, there's a separate little
File.
text file. It's in the sys help directory. You just do the name of the actual executable itself, .hlp, and it'll just fire it up and list it on the screen. There are some are a bit longer, like I got 2 or 3 screens it'll scroll through because the program's a bit more detailed and has a lot of controls or something. And if it's really massive, I do a simple one with the question mark, and then it tells you go to the docs directory and read the full 40-page manual if you want the full details.
Okay, so one of the games we were going to show
Okay.
that's been added was Dungeon Depths.
This is a Floyd Wrestler one. No, I didn't bring my joysticks when we actually play it, but you can see some of the graphics, just kind of get a bit of a detail of it here.
And also, now that we're in this, Curtis, you can show how to actually go out of this to see
Yep.
the help file. So if you just clear it into back into this screen.
What was
And
this
then-
coded in? Basic 09 or?
Dungeon Depths?
Then that's his basic one, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, so you can see you can get the help file if you don't know how to close the game, for instance, and now if you just hit the clear key, you can go back into the game.
Yep. This one does have a bit more of an extensive help.
Can't cancel the,
Yeah, you can just break out of it. If you want.
okay. So you didn't have to reload the game, you just.
Yeah, the game is still running in the background.
Okay.
Yep.
So, multitasking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On an 8-bit, yay!
I will mention I'm going to be decompiling this one like I've done some of Floyd's others because he lost all the source code over the years. He doesn't have any more. Because this one actually would be a good technique for those wanting to learn how to use page flipping. Because he's actually, the mazes that he shows, each level is 2 screens wide by 2 screens high, and he actually pre-draws all of them under control of one program and hides the other 3. So when you walk from one screen to the other, it's instant. It just switches over. It doesn't have to redraw everything. So if you want a Basic 09 game to do multi-screen stuff, it's pretty easy. And this program will be a good demo for it. So once I decompile it, I'll put the source code up so people can see how it's done.
Okay, well, we can get out of this one, and...
Yeah, do you remember what the key was? Because I wasn't actually reading the help.
No, I wasn't.
I'll just break out of it. It's great.
Okay, another game that's been added is, if you're interested in learning how to play cribbage, there's a good program on here for that, which is in...
Card games.
Level 2 card games, yeah.
When you said decompile it, I mean, if it's packed, you can't go back to the source code
Yeah, you
for the
can.
B09.
Yeah, you can. Wayne Campbell wrote a utility called Decode and Decom. Decom is the original version. The Decode's the new one. It's not fully ready yet. There's a few places it screws up, so you kind of have to figure out some of the stuff yourself. But it probably decompiles it 90–95% accurately. But of course, it doesn't know what your variable names were. So it's like R0001 is the first real floating point number it found. So you have to kind of go document it yourself. But it gets you the code back anyway.
And you hope that data is not intertwined with the code?
No, it does all that too.
It does?
Constant stuff, yeah. Because Basic 09 is a tokenized, sort of half pre-compiled thing. It's not just raw assembly where you're just trying to figure out things from scratch. So it's actually a bit more easy. It's unlike C, where if you decompile C, it's just like I'm loading something from 145, S on the stack because all the parameters got passed, and you have no idea what the hell it's referencing. That might be 8 subroutines ago or something, so it's a bit harder. The Basic 09 one's actually pretty easy to do, but Wayne Campbell's working on finishing getting his. Got a few bugs there that are still getting done. Once that's done, we should be able to recreate source code for every Basic 09 program ever written, and then I can start adding new features to Basic 09 too. So, I guess the Q&A is happening during it.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. That's
Yeah, feel
more on
free to
top.
ask questions. We've got no format to
As
actually
there were
follow
comps,
here.
it's not going to look too good.
Yeah, it's unfortunately not in our RGB right now. So, but yeah, if you want to learn how to play cribbage,
Yeah, this is written by Bob Vanderpool. Some of you might recognize him from doing stuff like VED, and he did stuff for the MM1, and he's done vPrint and some other games and all kinds of utilities. Another fellow Canuck, actually. He's at the time he was writing this stuff, I think he was in Alberta. Now he's in BC somewhere. But he's actually given us permission. He said any of the software he ever did, he can release as much he wants. He lost all of his source code too, so I'm starting to disassemble all of his utilities and stuff. But he's given free rein to everything he's ever written. Anybody wants to copy it and run it, go right ahead. This is one I found I didn't have before. So unlike most card games that we've got on the Coco, this one actually does, as you can kind of see in that white box in the middle, it actually gives you instructions to learn how to play the game as a tutorial. Then you can go right into the game itself.
so if you're ready to move into an old folks' home, learn how to play cribbage.
I was thinking this is perfect for the retirement community.
And this is a retirement community, right on.
Yeah, I wasn't being redundant.
Hey, he's got built-in help in case you forget your directions here too, which I would recommend for programmers to do that. Oops, no more help for Ken. Too bad, Ken.
Ah, well, pretty much hopeless.
And
All
I
right,
think he
well-
just has a break key to get out. Yeah. He does a lot of good menuing and stuff in his programs here, so it's kind of a good template to base writing your own stuff on.
And the last thing I was going to look at for the new games was Sorcerer's Appraisal. It's based on the Sierra graphical adventure game engine, which should be in level 2 graphical.
This is all these Sierra engine-based games. If you guys are familiar from Radio Shack, they sold King's Quest 3 and Leisure Suit Larry. Well, William Major went and ported a whole bunch of others, so we've got complete sets of some of these. And there's also the homebrew market that uses the engine and writes their own, and this is one of those.
Mm-hmm. So basically, as he's loading this up, I'll just say, like, as you can see, it's very usable to be able to do things like just play games and stuff. If you're not a hardcore type user that wants to be doing a bunch of programming and stuff, you just want to throw this in your Coco 3 and start playing some games. It's very usable, very helpful, much more helpful now thanks to the help files and everything else. And
Aaron's playing this little theme.
but that won't be captured, so you can't hear it if you're watching this on video. Ha!
It's not the greatest song, don't worry about it.
This is all Curtis's fault. You couldn't hear anything on the video? That's Curtis's fault. Anyways, so that's that. Now, Curtis, did you want to take a little poll on
I gotta remember how to get out of this thing first. It's
if only there was a way to get the help
yeah, I
file.
wonder.
If only there was a way
Let me check.
just explained it exactly.
Control break, it looks like.
Control break if using keyboard. That's drop down
Alt Z
menu.
to quit.
Alt Z.
Okay, let's go back there. See how convenient that is?
Now, did we want to do a little poll on the new?
Yeah.
Now, it won't be the clearest on here because it's not in RGB, but something has been added. There's now.
I will show the standard one that's been there since
Yeah.
day one. Well, day one of me
So with the
working
80
on it,
column, you've got the double wide icons.
Maybe
Very
I
nice,
gotta
very
folder
nice and
that
usable,
shows
but
bit more
a
here.
few people have requested a new version of this, and we'll see what you guys think.
Yeah, I'll get one that actually has some icons, more icons on it. Okay, so there's some sample ones. So when Ken Myers decompiled the C code for G Shell and started adding features, one of the things they added was the fattened icons. So proportionally, if you switch between the 40 column and the 80 column, a folder is still the same width on the screen. Now that was not how the original G Shell from Tandy worked. It actually just printed the icon with the pixel ratio squished, right?
Yeah.
So I had a few people like Rick Yulin, I don't know if he's here, but he wanted to go back to squish because that's what he got used to.
Oh, you're calling out Rick?
Yeah, I'm going to call it Rick, and I'll call it Nick shortly. So he wanted to go back to the thin, so I added the option for doing the thin ones. Now, much to my surprise, Nick Marentes, who designed the trash can, he always wants me to point that out. He was complaining when he did the trash can, when we switched the modes, it's either too tall and skinny or it's too short and fat, and we kind of did it in the middle. So I figured he would hate this new skinny icons. Actually, he prefers it.
Really?
Which is a bit of a surprise to me. Now, when I went to the International Computer Club on the Amigos network, and I had some of the Amigos and the Amiga crowd that they have there kind of look, they prefer the fat icons, they prefer to stay proportional. I was wondering for the people here, what do you think looks better?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, like the baby bottle.
Okay, how about hands up? Who prefers wide over the narrow? Holy crap, see? Nick, you're wrong.
Now, actually, how many of you actually prefer the narrow?
Oh, there's a few.
We got two?
Okay,
Two. All right.
Plus Nick Marentes and plus Rick Young.
That's about proportionate to the number of people that actually like it. But just for you guys, it's there.
The
Yeah.
trash can looks like one of those pneumatic tubes at the bank.
Yeah, I was thinking baby bottle like you, but that looks like one of
It's a bit sharper like a trash can when it's not in composite mode. It's kind of blurring it a bit.
Folder icons look better when they were skinny.
Yeah.
Might be,
All
Yeah, because
right.
they were just flat 2D. They weren't
I think
3D.
it'd be related to the age of the community too.
Yeah, as our eyesight gets worse. We'll be switching to 40 column anyway. That's the matter.
So that is basically the, if you're just a casual user with some of the stuff that you can do with NitrOS9 EOU.
Yeah, I mean, ease of use, the whole point of it, and this is when I came back into it after 15 years gone, and thank you, Boise, for keeping the flame going. I came back to it, and they changed a number of things, so even I was a little bit lost, and I helped write the original version of NitrOS9, and I was going, this is a little bit too hard, and that's when ease of use started from Nick Marentes pestering me too, because he always complained it was too hard. And the beauty of having the G shell system here is that if you're just coming into it, you've never touched a Unix like OS before, or OS9 or NitrOS9, you can just do familiar GUI stuff you used to on your Windows or your Mac or whatever. And but if you want to delve into the hardcore stuff, I mean, you can throw in DriveWire, you can throw in all kinds of stuff, and actually have a lot of fun with C compilers and Forth and all kinds of things. So it's basically the gateway drug to get people in to give it a shot. And if you just want to play games, you've pretty well learned everything you need to know just in this presentation so far. So.
Oh, one other thing that we wanted to, I wanted to mention that has been added in here. If you've seen our presentations in the past, a way to customize your booting is through swap boot. And before
Oh,
that,
right.
the only way to do that was to go in through the command line. But now, swap boot is available
Oops, I
in
hit
the
it too
GUI.
many times. I went right off the drive.
See, you hit it too many times.
Yeah, I didn't count it. How many times I hit it there?
So in the
I'll leave it in narrow because everybody's so overwhelmingly in favor of it. So no, actually, I'll fatten it out.
in the boots file, you can now do swap boot. So if you don't know what swap boot it is, if you have a different configuration that you want to use for booting up your
Yeah, I'll just show the
NitrOS9
ones I've
EOU.
got on here,
Yeah.
but I won't actually kick it in. I'll abort it. But
I've done videos about it on my channel about how to customize it. You can have your own customizable boot and add your own things into it and have it boot up in the color scheme or whatever you want with key click off.
yeah,
I don't know why, but the guy that wrote NitrOS9 EOU, he put key click on.
it's to show people the feature. I think the next one I'm going to disable because it's annoying me now.
He's been saying that for like the last 3 releases. Oh, next release key clicks can be off.
There's no way to turn it off?
Yeah, there is. But
I
you
just had
can-
it default on the term window because it was a new feature and I wanted people to discover it. So I forced it on so you had to discover it. And then you'd learn how to use it because you'd be so annoyed you try to shut it off. So
But in the past, I've shown how to create
got a
your
video.
own. I've got a video to create your own custom boot thing
Sets.
that adds right into this. Becomes like number 6 on the list there, and you can
yeah.
set it to boot into
There's
that.
a couple of reasons for doing this. I mean, one, building a boot file if you don't know what you're doing is dangerous. You can actually put in a driver for the wrong hard drive hardware, and then when you try to boot it, just crashes.
Yeah.
And that was one of the frustrating things for a lot of people trying OS9 for the first time is they go, I have an RS-232 pack, and they pick the modem packet by accident, and then it just freezes and locks up trying to hit hardware that's not actually there.
So it's basically a text file.
No, this is the actual boot modules to build the boot file itself,
Okay.
building the kernel, etc.,
Right.
right? So the first thing I want to do is make it have several sets that are common, which are included, but you can create your own and add in sets. But I decided to go a bit further than that and include a couple other things that aren't normally there. So you can also have a start file, which is your batch boot file. Basically, it's kind of like, what is it called in DOS? Exec bat, yeah, thank you. I haven't used DOS in a while. And I also did the environment file, and the environment file has like your default palettes and the default settings for G Shell to boot up in and a bunch of stuff. It's stuff that even affects stuff that I haven't even got installed in here yet, and like MV Canvas and a few other things too. But right now it's called a boot set, so you can create a boot that you can customize the colors of the windows and what resolution the windows boot up in when you boot up. But you can have a custom startup file, environment file, and an OS9 boot as a set, and it just swaps all those in and links it in, so it just reboots when you reboot into whatever hardware configuration. And some of the OS9 boots, like DriveWire, the drivers are quite big. So that say if you want to run a VDG-based app from a Coco 1 or 2, you don't have enough system memory left with DriveWire to do it. But if you really want to play some game or use some level 1 thing, you can just tell it reboot with something that doesn't have DriveWire, run that, and then run swap boot again and kick it back to the DriveWire one, reboot, and you're back up and running with the old one without having to muck around with boot files manually. So it's a lot simpler for people to use. If you're just doing game playing like Ken and stuff mentioning, our default boot is probably fine. We don't usually have DriveWire as a default
unless you want to key click off. Just
yeah.
you don't want to.
Well, you can change that too. I mean,
yeah, if you don't want to type key click off every time, you can make your own custom boot file that just has the key click off.
Thankfully, I only put the key click on by default on term, so these other windows here don't have it by default. But yeah, I think I'm just going to disable it. It's good for adventure games or something, or you're trying to type ahead while it's drawing graphics. You can actually hear every click, so you know you hit the key properly. Like I do use it on some graphic programs where it actually helps me. And a text adventure game, I think, work quite well, so you can actually hear every time you hit a key.
Okay,
and
well,
Vortex, I'm not actually going to change the boot.
Now, Curtis is going to talk about some stuff that's a little more advanced than just the average user.
So we've got a list, like every time we do a release, we have a list of what has changed or been added. And so I've got a few things I want to mention here. Some actually doesn't involve EOU itself, technically. So the biggest one is, as of the previous version of the CoCoFEST firmware, the 609 version of EOU no longer booted. And that was due to some changes that Darren Atkinson did in the firmware in there, and he managed to figure out and fix it. So now it works again. So thank you, Darren Atkinson, first for creating this in the first place, but also fixing it so now that the 609 version runs natively and works properly. I want to thank Boise for finding a bug in, what was that, copy mem or something? I'm trying to remember, because you found that one bug where I was doing that on the 609, it was loading some registers in the wrong order or something, so it was trashing one of them. So thank you for finding that one, because I missed it. Thanks to Robert Allen Murphy, who I don't think's at the show this year. He found a couple cosmetic bugs in G Shell, like if you actually closed the drive off to switch drives or something, it was leaving chunks of crap because I didn't quite clear the screen far enough down. So this is very much a community effort. I mean, this was probably a bit more me because I know Bill Noble was super busy and some other people were busy. But I want to thank like Fred Pravancha did a new version of the control panel. It's included here, so thanks to him. Is he at the show? Yeah, I think he was supposed to be, but I haven't seen him yet.
I don't know, my brain is
Fred.
fresh. A little more coffee and I'll start remembering things.
So anyway, big thanks. This is a community project for sure. The request for the narrow icons was Rick Euland, and obviously there's a few people that prefer that, so that's good. I should mention too, I've created a new def type in the environment file, so if you want to default it into narrow icons, rather than having to reset it with the view menu every time you boot up G Shell, you can actually set that, and it'll just stay that way permanently every time you run it, or you can force it to 80 column fat bit or 40 column, whatever you want. I want to thank Dan Elcher. He was getting EOU running in MAME, and he made a quick start guide PDF that's now on my site in the documentation section for NitrOS9 Ease of Use. If you want to get it set up for MAME, he's got a complete thing. You can just follow point by point and get it set up. Basic 9, which I have been optimizing the last couple of versions. James Jones found a bug in one of the floating point routines on the 6809 that I'd optimized, and it's a fairly rare bug. It happens like once every 100,000, depending what your combination of variables are. So I missed it completely because I did run some testing on it. I never had anything run differently than the original version. He found them. So he kind of let me know about it, gave me a sample program that could reproduce the problem, which was absolutely critical for me to find the bug because it was pretty rare. Like it had to be a certain combination of bit flags before it ever happened. And that's fixed now, so thanks, James. For those of you who do Basic 9 programming, I mean, we've been optimizing the 609 version ever since NitrOS9 came out. but the last little while I've been actually optimizing the 6809 version a bit, and there's a few math routines I've got running a whole 3% faster, so enjoy the zipping speed. Run B, of course, the runtime package has now been caught up with Basic 9, so all the optimizations we've done on both chips are now included that, so if you pack your programs, you also get the speed increases and bug fixes. The source code for Shell Plus 2.2a, which has command line history and stuff, so I probably don't have everything here I've done, so let's just say I do a dir, I'll do an mfree, then I'll do a proc, and then you can just go up arrow and you'll go through and you can edit the existing ones and basically all the command history. So the source code version of that, which is a combination of Ron Lamardo, who did up through Shell Plus 2.1, and I can't remember who initially did the version history back in 95 or 6 or something. He had a few bugs in his version. I fixed that, and I've done a few other very, very minor changes, but basically the source code, I finally remembered to put it on. So if you guys want to go through that. There was a couple of extension conflicts, which actually got pointed out by Fred Provence as well. Like, I think it was Dynacalc and GCal. Both, if you're saving the calendars under GCal, or if you're saving a spreadsheet under Dynacalc, they use the exact same extension. And the way G-Shell works is that your little icons here basically have a 3-character extension. It's kind of like the old PIF files in Windows 3.1. Well, the problem is if you loaded programs or files that use those extensions in a particular order, you get different icons. So, if you loaded GCal stuff first, you're going to get a GCal icon. Even if you go to Dynacalc, it'll show them all as being calendars, even though they're spreadsheets, and vice versa. So we changed the default extensions for a couple of programs, including those two and a few others as well, so that they should be unique now, and that shouldn't be that confusing where it's going to try to load a calendar into your spreadsheet program, which causes major problems, or in a couple cases I think even crashed. Control program, minor change. It has a new minimum size because I still have the old one in there. Fred has actually made the whole control program with tab type stuff. So it now needs a minimum size that's quite a bit bigger than the previous version. I won't actually run too much in here. I'll let Fred kind of talk about that. But you've got all these tab settings. So if you want to go to the display tab, you have a whole set of options you can change on the display tab. And this is, once again, not set up for the right monitor type here, your mouse, keyboard. And he's got it all nice and organized. So we've got a lot more stuff that you can control from the control panel now than the old one did. Because the one problem with the original one is you had control panel for doing certain things like keyboard and mouse and graphics, but then you had to go to the print utility to change your printer settings, and you had to go to the R32 thing to change your R32 back settings. Now you can pretty well do everything and more in one control program now. So the other ones, eventually I'll be pulling them out of the menu because you won't need them anymore. That wasn't me. I don't know what that was.
Battery is running out.
Oh, lamp, red light on?
That's not good.
Is that an
Lamp
overheat?
just overheated.
No, well, yeah.
Well, I can just read off the things. Added source code for WinFo and VIFO, and I also had to fix a bug on WinFo. I've got one other bug I got to fix. These are utility programs for getting the specs of like Windows that you're trying to run software on. And one of the bugs in there is that it returns how many character positions you're across for your text cursor, but it doesn't know about the narrow fonts. So it calculates based on the wide fonts. The numbers are completely wrong. So I got to fix that one little bit, but there's a few other bugs I already fixed. GraphDrive had some very minor speed increases, but not you'll ever notice. CBR sponsoring ball demo from level 1 is now on there as well. Runs on the 609 and the 609 as well. It's just kind of a tribute because he passed away recently, of course, so I threw that on there. The Retro Rewind demo and the Taylor and Amy Show demos that I did for both of them are both on here with source code and Basic 9 if you want to see how I did any of the weird tricks. The README file in CPM's Turbo Pascal, if you're running the CPM emulator, had a couple glitches that would actually make the screen go wacky because there's a couple control codes that shouldn't have been there, so I fixed that up. Fred Provence also provided a Mandelbrot generating set program that's all GUI driven that you can run.
The top. There you go.
Oh, cool, thanks. So I'll just close out of this. I'm using the keyboard mouse here because I didn't have a room for a mouse on this table, so if you hear the clicking, that's what that is. Stranded and Out of Gas, which is a game program by Sean Driscoll that is a text adventure game, but it actually uses the graphics window, so you can have like little sections of the screen with little 3D indentations. Like here's your inventory window and your command window and your description window and stuff. I've been optimizing it a bit because he wrote it like a lot of us did in the old days when we were first learning level 2. You wanted to change something on the screen like a palette, you do shell display whatever. So it launches a shell, which then launches the display command to issue 2 bytes to the screen. And that's just, it was the easy way we all figured out, but you know, it's pretty inefficient. You're forking multiple processes to print 2 characters. So I'm going through and optimizing it, and now the response time is a lot better. I've got more to do on that, but you already covered the stuff there. I do have a new program or a source code listing in the source code ASM directory called base.a and baseoriginal.a. On Mark Overholzer, is he around? No? He's the guy in charge of the CoCoTech show that we're going to be doing as part of the Coco Nation family of shows. And I'm actually going to start doing tutorials on OS9 assembly language. And those are base programs for you guys to start, so you don't have to remember all the stupid settings for includes and all that kind of stuff. So you can just copy that and then edit it for any tutorial we're doing. So that's kind of set up and ready to go. There were some bugs on a couple utilities with the parser that was looking for options, and it was doing a check for dash, you know, a letter for whatever option you want to do. The problem was if a file name has a dash in it, it was interpreting that, it would just cut it off. Because it would think, oh, that's an option you flag you want. It's not part of a file. It would never open the file, wouldn't report an error. So there's utilities like del, touch, dir, dump, ident were broken on that. So I went and fixed it because basically you have to check for a space dash because you can't have a space in a file name. So that totally solved it. So that's fixed. Then the dips you recovered. One I will mention here, thanks to Dave Weens, who was one of the guys who programmed for the Sardis no-halt controller from back in the day. For the old-timers, you might remember that. But he wrote SDisk3 and SDisk, the drivers, which are really advanced ones that do like 128 to 1K sectors and a whole bunch of other things. He had buffering and caching built in the performance peripherals version of the disk controller up to 32K cache. And he did a lot of other programming too. But he actually did a port of Flex, so you can run Flex as a window under NitrOS9. So I'll just briefly show that. I'm not a big Flex guy. I was hoping Michael Furman would be here because he did a whole series on Flex. And what directory is that in? Emulators, I think. And we still got the CPM emulator. We still got RSB from Burke and Burke if you want to run Radio Shack disk basic programs and stuff like that. But if you want to play around with Flex a little bit, I've only got the main boot disk in here. You can add your own disk images afterwards. So there you got the standard +++, and for the old timers that used Hayes modems, no, that's nothing to do with the Hayes modem command string. And of course the date stuff is kind of broke. I'm gonna have to go try fix the drivers later on, but I can just do a dir under Flex type thing, and there's a few command files, etc. here. So basically, if you want to play around with Flex, it's actually running, and it's running simultaneously with everything else. So you can just go fiddle with it and come back to it when you want. Now, he added this little utility here as basically simulating a ROM monitor program that Flex would have, which also includes the special option to return to OS9 and quit the Flex emulator. So,
I like the date on those last two, April 120.
yeah, no, I just should go through and fix that. I'm not familiar. Is anybody here familiar with how the Flex commands are structured in assembly? Because I'd like to go fix it, and they should be pretty simple fixes. It's just I have no idea how this stuff works yet. So maybe I'll talk to Michael if he's around here. The big thing, the help files that Ken was mentioning, I tried to put help for everything that has an icon so that you can get help on all of them. And the fact you can do it by going back a window even if you launch the program. Because the one problem, if you just abort programs, I mean, the process's memory will be returned to the system. But if you loaded a bunch of get put buffers or something, the system doesn't know that you want them gone or if you want to keep them around. Like, you don't want to kill every font every time you kill a program that ran a different font, right? So you can, I can end up getting a basic memory leak because your get put buffers will stay assigned. Now you run another graphics game. It made more get put buffers. I just broke out of it. And it gradually you'll run out of memory, especially in a 512K machine. So the whole point of putting the help and stuff here is you can cleanly exit and the program will clean up after itself like it's supposed to rather than you just killing it. So that's one of the reasons I did that. But I think there's one or two little demos I found that I forgot to put in help. But I think just about everything. If you guys find any that you find there's missing help for that actually has an icon, I haven't done it for every command on the commands directory, but let me know and I'll make sure it's on the next version.
Just make it an angry email to them.
But just to give you an idea, and I don't know if you probably don't have the camera here, but basically for the people in the audience here, like there's the list of the programs here. This entire page is of new help files I made over here, and then a few more on the next one. So it's been a fair bit of
And actually,
typing.
all this documentation is available on Curtis's website.
Yeah, and actually, if you download EOU, this is included with it too.
Yeah.
So every time you download a version of it, I have a little README that tells you what's new in the current version. Michael Furman wrote a new utility for the CoCoFEST, which I've included called SDC Commander. I won't demo it here because Mike's already done a demo on his channel, but basically what he did is he created this commander. It's a utility for manipulating the SD cards, mounting images, kind of thing. But he made it common between Flex, Disk Basic, Fusix, and NitrOS9, so it's the exact same command set for all of them. Once you learn one, you've learned them all, including CoCo 1 and 2, CoCo 3. So it's a really nice utility app. So I've made sure it's included on here so you can carry that over if you're learning it on other things. Darren Atkinson contributed one other bug fix. This time it was for something in here. He's the one who wrote the CoCo SDC driver, the low-level driver for it. And he found a bug himself, specifically regarding a multi-pack, trying to use SDC if the multi-pack when it's not the target device. So he fixed that so it actually properly sets the slots and stuff for it. I put the level Basic 9 testing program for some graphics level 1 stuff for CoCo compatibility with 1 and 2. The source codes for that's now included, so you guys can take a look at it. A couple little demos from Freud Retzler, did one for GFX5. Bruce Eisted, who is one of the guys who did a ton of OS9 stuff for Frank Hogg. He did a lot of the stuff for the level 2 version 3 upgrade that kind of got sort of half-assed released afterwards. Found out he passed away too recently. He just moved back to Alberta because he'd been in Silicon Valley for 15 years and he passed away. His wife, sent a thank you because I actually commented on it. I've visited them before, so. But his stream hard drive backup restore utility is now included too, and it's probably one of the better ones because you can actually recover files even if part of the backup is missing or damaged. It'll actually resync through the stream and let you recover as many files as you can. And we used to use it at work. We backed up a 65 meg drive, an 80 meg drive and a 40 meg drive all with the one program. And we did this every week as backups onto floppies. So it was like 50 floppies for the big drive and 35 for the other one. But that was Bill and me every weekend. That's what we did. Source code and the documentation for Sean Driscoll's GUI B3, which we've shown in demos before, is now included. So if you want to see how Sean did all that stuff, it's there. Source code for ViewGIF and ViewEF by Von Cato is now on there as well. That's written in C. Documentation for View, Jim Gary's Cave Game, and ViewEF have been added, the full documentation in the docs directory. Graphics 2 Edition 5, which is the latest version for Basic 09, has been updated with a couple updates on how the on-mouse signal option works. So those have been there too. How are we doing for time?
23.
So we got a few minutes left?
23, so you got like
5 minutes? So I could run one or two of the demos like the Taylor and Amy one, which I could send them for Halloween. Unfortunately, they didn't get a chance to use it on their channel because they wanted some live stuff, but I could show it if you guys want to see it. Or you
we
guys
can
have
take
any other questions, just let me know.
Questions?
Demo or
Anybody?
questions?
Anybody?
Take your pick. Demo? Okay. It's just a bit of silliness, so.
I think you guys got to a quarter till.
Oh, do we?
Give like 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
The schedule.
Oh, we don't want to torture you that much.
It's a long time.
So it's got their familiar flask there. And then the source code for this is included too. If you guys think it looks good and you want to figure out how I did anything, not too much weird in here, but. Nope, nothing there.
And it broke.
It's a demo. What do you expect? It's going to crash, right? Do I have I wonder if I actually have a GP map problem I was just talking about. No, it's okay.
The zombie process is running.
Try one more time.
Reboot.
191, okay. I'll get it running in my booth. I'll figure what's going on. I'm not going to do it live. I can show the retro rewind, I guess, one. Since they weren't able to make it, actually, they texted me they weren't able to make it.
Oh, no?
So he did want me to mention, I'll mention it in the floor on the microphone too, but basically they've been building CoCoSTCs and diagnostic packs. They have a whole bunch in stock, so if anybody wants to order one, if you hit their site, retrorewind.ca, he's got a ton in stock. He can ship them within a day or two. And Ken?
If you want to save 10% on your order, then you can use my discount code of CRT10 at checkout and get 10% off your order from Retro Rewind. So CRT10.
What are we ordering?
Anything from Retro Rewind.
Yeah, they have diagnostic carts,
they have
which have been updated for the
yeah.
CoCo 3 and 8 meg, up to 8 meg RAM upgrades. CoCoSTC is one of the main two suppliers of that, and they also got capacitor kits and stuff if you need to replace capacitors. CoCos generally are pretty good at that. You probably don't need that, but just in case you do.
Or they also have 6309s in
Yes,
stock.
they have
if you
639s
need-
in stock.
I think that.
And these are new ones. These are not pulled from old stuff. The 639 is still being manufactured for military contracts, and because Frank's a pretty big distributor, he actually has access to those. So he actually buys them brand new. These are not rebranded chips or pulled from old stock. These are brand new.
So put the 6309s in all of your CoCos, your 1s, your 2s, and your 3s. 10, yeah. That's just my channel name, Canadian Retro Things. So.
That's what I was thinking. It's like, why would you call it that?
I'm getting an evil eye.
I actually chose the name for my channel based on that, so. Because what do you run these old computers on?
And here's a big plug for Retro Rewind, apparently. So this one actually plays music. I don't know if people are hearing or not, but
I'm hearing clowns and balloons in my head.
But as Curtis had said, there was no music in this, so you can't hear it on the
yeah,
screen.
it's very faint. You can hear it there, but.
I'll add it in post.
Yeah,
But this one, it has a
music
little
from
text
Clowns and
file.
Balloons on there.
The little blurb at the top changes, and that's just a little text file, and I actually set it up. This is the Basic 9 program, but I set it up actually so you can edit that text file and add or change things while it's running, and it'll pick them up live as you're doing them, just to show off the multitasking file sharing under OS9. And it plays a little digitized sample of his little blurb, but. Anyway, that's some of the stuff that's in there. So any general questions, either from people that want to know, the more advanced technical details of NitrOS9, or just people who want to know about NitrOS9 in general, like what the hell is it, why do you want to use it, that type of thing.
Or any
Anything.
personal questions for Curtis about, his life or anything.
I will just make up the answers to those, but.
Ultramuse, has the latest manual been added to the disk, the distribution?
Ooh, what version do I have in there? I have something in there, but I don't remember which
I've
one.
had a couple questions asking where the actual documentation, I know that Bill Pierce has got something on his site.
Do you remember what they're called?
No, it was the actual documentation. It was
Yeah, the UM manual, I can see up at the top, the UM manual, doc, UM README, UM README 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are the Ultramuse docs, but I don't know, what's the latest version? Current version?
I don't know. I haven't looked at it. I know that it's been a work in progress, and I don't know when the last time we touched it.
Won't be able to read it too easily here, but
Why don't you do a with 40 first?
View doesn't work in with 40.
Oh, it doesn't?
Okay, this is installation. Oh, this is one of the many README, so he made a separate README for each version, so this isn't the latest one. What's the actual?
Yeah, looks like it. Cool.
I'll just read the main manual because I think that's pretty well up to date. Seven point 11.2. Is that the current version?
It's one of the newer ones, yeah.
If you have a newer one, let me know and send it to me, and I'll put it on the next version of VOU just to keep it.
Yeah, out to some of that. The other question was the prom update for the SBC. Did you say that was fixed? You fixed that
Prom?
where you had to back off because they had the update for the prom for the SBC.
Oh, the firmware update?
Yes, firmware, yeah.
So the 609 boots? Yeah. You have to do that yourself, though. That's actually the SDC
No,
updater.
I understand that, but because we went to the latest one last year, and it
And broke.
process-
Yeah. His new at 1 point, if you have 0.128, I think it is. Is that the latest one?
I'm
I
not
think
sure.
127 was the
Yeah.
latest.
You have to update the latest firmware. It's on his blog, Darren Atkinson's CoCoFEST blog. You don't need to install the new SDC DOS, so you might as well put the new one of that in there too. But the firmware itself, I think it's 128 or higher, that got that fixed. So yeah.
Sir, I got a question related to that. Is there anybody here that can help us do that upgrade?
Yeah, it's actually, you run it on the CoCo. Yeah, you just run it on the CoCo. There's a little to download, what is it called? SDC Setup or something is the name of the
Yeah,
disk.
it's an
You just run a basic program. It tells you what versions you have now. Do you want to install them? Hit the key, let it go, done.
Yeah. Stevie has a thing where it goes through on how to does that. He has on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, I can help you with it too. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, your booth is like right behind ours, so
Yeah.
Yes.
we
And
can.
my SDC is very outdated, so.
So Curtis could probably just turn around and help you.
Yeah. And for those of you wondering, I don't put full help. You know, you click the question mark. This is because like you get manuals that are like this long. You don't want to read that all on a graphic screen scrolling by.
We're at 28%, 40%.
What was that?
There, I'm halfway.
Yeah, can you go back a little bit? I missed something.
Like some of the people wrote some really good documentation, really extravagant, but yeah, you don't want to run that on a listing screen that's 10 lines high.
Documentation is a good thing.
Yeah. I'd rather too much than not enough. Sorry?
Any search functions in there? Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can even, if the documentation is too wide, you can even scroll sideways or smooth scroll sideways. You can write out screens of it if you don't want certain things in a separate file instead of hunting through like something like this. You can actually just find the one part, just hit W. It's got built-in help too, which you probably won't be able to read to here, but you can see some of the commands there. You can scroll and page and find strings and continue searching for the same string. Print the screen to a printer. Change the file you've got currently open and viewed. Jump to a percentage. I want to jump exactly halfway, for example. I can just go 50% and jump straight there. And as you notice, this is quite fast. It's using direct screen write. It's not going through the legal. Oh, whoa. And it has a built-in screensaver.
And apparently that's the end of our presentation.
Yeah. Actually, I think it's getting overheated from the lamp because it's blowing right on here. So I'll just let it cool off for a bit here. I can still answer questions though. So yeah.
If you have are there any problems with Vue that, because I can just fix them?
One thing I like to do in Vue, like Vue had two versions that Vaughn did. He had one that went through the legal screen writes but would do a big buffer.
Yeah.
And I would like to see a version of Vue that has the direct screen write option and maybe a command flag to use the original, but also to handle different size screens. If you're running on a terminal like 132 columns, or if you're running on a 40 column screen, if you could be able to handle that, I would love to have a version that did that.
Yeah, I think I can work on that. Also, I want to apologize because all of my updates didn't make 1.01 because I was on vacation.
Yeah, he had the nerve to go on vacation. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, you've done a lot of updates to the C compiler and some other utilities too, so the next version, I'll contact you again, we'll get them in there. I mean, you can go get them from directly, you don't have to wait for me or ease of use, but it's just nice having a base that slides along with all the updates that, Fred and Jeff and a bunch of others have done over the years. So if anybody else writes stuff for OS9, if you want your stuff included, just send it to me, tell me where you want it, what directory it should fall into, and please draw an icon because I suck at drawing icons.
Just make sure that you get Curtis to draw your icon, in other words.
No, don't. Please don't.
No, he really
Especially
does
if
like
it's an
the-
narrow one. I'm not a fan of this. Any other questions, general or specific?
Well, with the Steve Bjork files being pulled off of the auctions and everything, are you making some place where it's like, okay, here's some disassemblies?
The source code
something
for
like
his
that.
bouncing ball demo, for example, Roger does have now.
Mhm.
I don't have that.
Yeah.
So once Roger gets that read off and sends it out, definitely will include it, yes.
Yeah, because I saw that demo on how it was drawn and then
Yeah, in
saved.
BASIC it was like
Yeah.
doing sine and cosine, yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be nice to know how people derive things and creating them, not just, okay, here's their program, that kind of thing.
Yeah, basically I do whatever I have. Like some people when they release stuff back in the day on CompuServe or Delphi, released everything, source code, documentation, icons, everything else. Other people just released the executables and the icon because they just wanted people to run it. They didn't want them to see the code.
Right.
Well, that's where the decompiler comes in, because some of the people have lost the code in the meantime, or they're out of the CoCo community, don't have a CoCo anymore, and we'll never get it back.
Yeah, I've never had that problem.
But yeah, a big thanks to Wayne Campbell for doing decode and decom, because I have recovered source code now for probably a dozen base coding programs, including some quite large, ones that take a 200K total because it's constantly loading different modules over top of others for different parts of the program. Like, trying to remember one he did. And actually, decom itself's written in base coding, so he had to use his own utility to recover some of his own code. So, any others? Any requests of things that you'd like to see in NitrOS9 that's not there yet? And as long as it's not impossible. Like some people, because we've been trying to make NitrOS9 give the visual appearance of being fast and fairly modern, even though it's an 8-bit machine. Some people ask me, like, can you do like command line completion of files and directory? Well, if you go in the commands directory, there's like 1,500 files there. I mean, I have to be able to have the OS handle what the OS natively can support. So a directory can have thousands of files, and how slow that's going to be, having to scan through that just to hit the right arrow tab. I don't have DMA and massive buffers, so that kind of stuff. No, I won't be adding. I probably could come up with an algorithm, doing a linked list chain or something, based on the first letter, then the second letter, and kind of thing.
Very efficient background program running or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a bit of smoke and mirrors to make things look as fast as they react, but some of it's just the efficiency of OS9 and NitrOS9 itself. So, but yeah, don't. There's a few certain things that people have gotten kind of spoiled with modern machines with gigs of memory and running at gigahertz speeds and stuff that I can't make that out. Go.
Can you add AI into it?
Oh, yeah.
Elijah's already there.
Oh, all right.
The AI
Curtis already uses ChatGPT to write all this stuff.
Yeah. ChatGPT doesn't even know what the hell a 609 is, because I've watched some of its 6809 code.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Load AA? I didn't know the 609 had that.
Oh yeah, I tried doing that, and it's interesting what the result was with ChatGPT.
Yeah. It was basically a hodgepodge of 6800, 6502, and maybe a couple 609 bits, and it wouldn't work on any assembler known to man. It wouldn't run anyway, even if it did.
I tried to teach it a bit. It's hard to understand, but if you do
Yeah.
another prompt, it's completely different. It's annoying.
Yeah.
It doesn't really learn, actually.
No. That's what I discovered too. So.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I got a question about
Yeah.
networking. Now, Rick Euland has the CoCo.
CoIO.
Is there going to be drivers for that for OS9 or what?
Yes. Henry Strickland has already got some drivers. They're written in C, so they're not a proper driver. It's kind of a user program running that's doing the driver type stuff. And until they get everything fully working and kind of debug, I think it's going to stay that way. Then eventually we're going to go back and write an assembly driver that actually is part of the OS9 itself. Now, how big is that going to get? That's the problem. If we fill the system map too much with a huge OS9 boot, some other stuff might stop running properly. So that one we might have to actually make a bit of a different driver model. It might be more like the graph-driv model, where CoWin stays in the main system memory map as part of the main core OS, but graph-driv has its own completely separate memory map. Like we might do something like that. So then now we can give the network driver 64K of its own space. It'll slow down things a little bit because you have to kind of jump between the two things, but you can do a much more complex full-feature driver that way.
That's probably going to be the ideal way to do it.
Yeah, I think so too. Because you want big buffers for that too. You don't want like a tiny little 256-byte buffer or something. You want multiple K, especially if you have multiple ports open and stuff too. So it might even be bigger than 64. You might just have it so which port are you on, map that chunk of buffer in, and then deal with it. Any others? Okay, well, thanks for coming out. If you haven't tried it already, go download it. It's on my site. It's free. It will always be free. And send suggestions, questions to me. You can catch me on the show. You can catch me on Discord. I've got an email all over my sites.